Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello and welcome to Message in the Middle. I'm your host, Marianne, and joining me today is Melissa Vogel. Melissa is the business owner and operator of Melissa Vogel Fitness, LLC. She's a fitness expert with over 20 years of experience as a certified personal trainer and group fitness instructor. She's the creator of Busy to Bomb Fit Mom, and she helps busy moms get back to being fit through a combination of mindset work, vision, proper nutrition, and exercise. Melissa also is the host of Bomb Mom Podcast, where she covers speakers and topics that will help listeners broaden their picture of what health really looks like and to inspire listeners to find new avenues to set, reach, and maintain their goals. Melissa, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you, and I want to share your backstory because when we met, people know that I always do a connection call. And when we met, one of the things you said to me was people sometimes look at you or make assumptions and think that you've always had it easy. You've always been fit. You know, this comes easy for you and you don't have to work at it. But I think you have a different story to share behind that. So tell us a little bit about that backstory and how it kind of led you into this work.
Yeah, for sure. It's always crazy because I get that more now than ever before, probably because I'm in the best shape of my life now. And people are always like, oh, it must be nice. They either take away my job and they're like, it must be nice to have all this time to work out. And I'm like, do you know what I do for a living and how much I work? And then they think like, oh, just must be naturally skinny. And I'm like, you have no idea where I've came from and what I've risen from. And I've always been into health and fitness. Like I grew up around it. I grew up doing martial arts and, I played volleyball, I played in college, and it's always been like a part of my life. And I started getting involved in teaching classes really young. I saw this flyer at my high school, and this is how it really started. It was in high school. I think I was a sophomore, and I saw this flyer on the wall, and they were looking for someone to clean the equipment in exchange for a membership. And I was like, yeah, duh. So I went there. My mom dropped me off, talked to him, got the job. And then I started doing like classes. They're like, you can do whatever you want here. I'm like, oh, okay. So I started doing classes, and the instructor was like, you're really good at this. And I'm like, I am. And she's like, yeah, you want to start learning how to do it? I'm like, okay. Little by little, I started learning. And then she'd give me parts of her class to do. And I'm like, oh my God. And then people were like, you tried that New Girl yet? Here I am like 15. And they're like, don't tell anyone your age.
Yeah.
Like,
wow, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And people started coming more and more. And they're like, we love her. And then they're like, you're ready. Just start teaching. Like come up with a routine, start teaching. This was like step aerobics and like,
jazzercise back in the day.
Pretty much. And I loved it. I was like, that was my first taste at like training. And I was like, I love that I can have all these people here right now. And like, I'm motivating them all at once. And they come in from a really hard day at work. And then they leave going, oh my God, I can tackle the world. I have the whole rest of the evening now. I feel so much better. I'm like, wow, that's powerful. Okay, this is cool.
Oh, so you got hooked on that part of it versus the exercise. You got hooked on the motivating people and helping people get there. That's pretty cool.
It was neat. It was a really cool transformation to see in just an hour.
Yeah.
And like you're changing someone's life. And they just grew. My classes got packed. People loved it. I loved it. They're like, maybe you should get certified, So they paid for me to get certified as long as I stayed there. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. And then I got into personal training, and then I started taking on clients and stuff. And I like this. And I put myself through high school and college doing this.
Wow.
And like, I was in a situation where if I didn't teach, I didn't eat. So I literally taught like 6 classes in one day to like just to be able to like pay for stuff. And I would go and do 2 days for volleyball, and then I'd come and still teach a class.
Did you get burnt out?
I'm sure I did, but I didn't pay attention to it. Who has time?
Yeah.
Who has time?
Yeah.
And then I had babies and I got married, and my whole life changed.
Yeah.
After every single baby, your body changes in a whole different way.
100%.
And no one warned you of that.
Right.
No one's like, hey, by the way. And by the time I got to my third, I had gotten back into shape with each one. But by the time I got to my third, it was 70 pounds. I typically say 65, but who am I kidding? It was 70. Who am I kidding? And that baby weighed like 8 pounds, 2 ounces.
Yeah.
The rest was mama.
Yeah.
And that was my start of like losing myself. And I'm like, who did I become? Like, what is going on? And I'm trying to raise these humans. And I got so wrapped up in mom life and just taking care of everyone else and just trying to figure out how to be a good wife at the same time. And I truly lost who I was at that time. And there was one point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to get it together. And I lived in Michigan at the time. So we had basements. And like, I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna do this. So what do? I go and get P90X, not for a post mama, like to work out to at all. And I go and get P90X, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this, knowing it's not the right choice, but this is what I do. And I'm on my hands and I'm doing mountain climbers where you're like running your knees into your chest. You're kind of like in plank and you're running your knees in. And I kid you not, I felt something. I felt like this, like tapping. And I'm like, what is that? And I look down, I'm like, oh my God, my stomach is so big now, it's hitting my thighs. Every time I pulled my knee in, I was hitting my thigh. And I just lost it. That was my breaking moment.
Yeah, the realization. Yeah.
That was my breaking moment of like, what happened? Who did I become? Talk about the shame and the guilt. And I'm like, all of the things and you still let this happen to you. How dare you?
I could see.
And it was a punishment, and it was insane.
So I could see how that could happen. And I bet, lots of the listeners can relate to that. And it creeps up on you. Like you said, you get lost in everything else. And while it doesn't happen overnight, right? We don't gain 70 pounds in a day and look in the mirror and go, wow, you got fat last night. It's these little incremental pounds, and you don't realize it until you realize it.
And then when you do realize it, you have that moment of like, okay, what are you going to do with this?
Yeah.
And most people take that moment and they're like, this sucks and I don't like it. And, maybe next year I'll change. And they think about that. But you have that other option too, where you're like, I am not going to let this define me. This is not where I'm going to be. And literally I was rock bottom on my cement floor crying and being like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I chose to rise. I chose to move and make changes. And that's kind of how like Busy to Bomb Fit Mom, my program, was developed. Like everything that I did that was so different than what I knew, I tracked, I logged, I tested out on clients. And then that's how it was born.
Wow, that's great. And now I know you have a whole tribe of followers that, believe in that and follow the practice around what you do there. Let me ask you this question, because you said it, many of us, we get to that decision point and it can go either way. You can say, well, maybe next year, or maybe you get the idea that you will tackle it this year. And knowing we're going to put this episode at the beginning of the year, it'll be beginning of January 2024 when it airs. Let's talk about that a little bit, because many of us, probably all of us, have been to the point where we say, yep, this is my New Year's resolution. I'm going to do it. I'm going to either lose the weight, I'm going to get healthier, I'm going to pick up this new exercise, program, whatever it is. And it sounds great New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens in February? Like, why do you feel like most people don't stick to it? And what's the key to sticking to it? What do you got for us there?
Most people don't stick to it because they go off of like those feel good feelings, first of all, like, oh, and they like run off of motivation. They're like, okay, that outfit didn't fit me. And okay, now I'm motivated now, like I never want that to happen to me again. And that's great. But if you rely on motivation, oh yeah, girl, you're never going to keep going, because that comes and goes so often and changes, and people rely on it. They're like, I just don't feel motivated. And I'm like, great, because you're never going to feel it. But people get stuck on that. And then the second biggest thing is people get stuck on just doing the physical stuff. So they're like, I need to go to the gym and work out more. I need to eat more salads or chicken or, and it's all like physical stuff, which is great. And like a really important part of your journey for sure. Physical activity, eating the right foods, but they skip the crucial, like inside stuff that no one talks about. The mindset shift you have to start changing, the self-talk and self-love and self-awareness that has to go on with it. And the biggest thing, the identity shift. No one in the fitness industry talks about how there has to be this massive identity shift where you go from being, let's be real. We identify ourselves as who we are at that moment. So a lot of women are like, I identify myself as a 40-year-old overweight mom of two, and this is who I am. We might not say it out loud, but it's burned in there. They don't shift that to, I am a badass 40-year-old mom that's going to be ripped and strong and toned. And I am good. I am too good for some people. I am too good for pizza. Like, and that's who they identify as now. And they don't do that. And so when all the physical stuff isn't fun anymore, which it's not, I have to go to the gym after this today. I don't want to. I don't feel like it. It's not fun. But I've identified with the mom that does go no matter what. So that gets me there. And that stuff goes away so fast. Like you can only eat salads and chicken and asparagus for so long. And then when that goes away, people are like, it's not fun anymore. I don't want to do this. And now you're in February.
That happens for sure. Let's talk a little bit more about that identity switch, because I think we both agree that having those conversations with yourself, they feel silly at first, right?
Absolutely.
You said, I'm the badass mom, whatever. Like that literally feels dumb in the moment. Like, it's like, am I really saying this? Like, who can hear me, right? It's embarrassing. And it's hard to get yourself in that mode of doing that regularly and finding it easy to just, cling to those words and repeat those words. So any suggestions for that transition, and how do you go from just saying it to really feeling it? What's the difference there? And how do you kind of get that in place?
Oh yeah. I know some people hate the saying. I've heard people just boo-hoo it, and then other people like support it. The whole fake it till you make it. I know there's a lot of people that are like, that's so dumb and you should never listen to it. There is truth to it, because that's how you do it. All the questions that you're asking me, that's how you do it. You literally, in the beginning, you just start going through the motions and act as if you're faking it. There's a lot of times where I said and did things where, like, I always say I have like an angel and devil on my shoulder, and the angel's like, you can do this, Melissa. Like, go ahead, make the right choice and go to the gym or do whatever. And then the devil's going like, are you crazy? You're so dumb. You can't do this. You're never going to make it. And you like fight this inner battle.
100%. We can all relate to that.
Yeah. But you have to keep practicing shutting that devil up. And we call it in Bomb Mom, we call it your person A, who you are now, and then who you want to become as your person B. So we're always saying like hashtag person B, your person B, your person B. And that's who you want to become. And I get people crystal clear on her. Like, what does your hair look like? What kind of leggings do you wear? What does she eat? How's her relationship? What kind of car do you drive? Like, what kind of food do you eat? What kind of snacks do you eat? Are you the mom that goes on vacation and still works out or not? Like, are you really into yoga? Are you really like, who is she? And then while you're going to the gym, while you're going through these stages and transitioning, you're focusing on her and you become her. So she becomes familiar to you. How does she speak?
I love that.
You have to practice, because you know what happens? People will do like these like boot camps or something, like 6 weeks, drop 30 pounds or whatever. And they do it so fast. There was no identity shift. And then they get into this new body and they're like, oh my God, I don't know how to maintain this. How do I get back? Because our brain loves what's familiar.
Yes.
So they're like, how do I get back? How do I get back to the old me? They'd never know this on a conscious level, but subconsciously, they're fighting to get back to what's familiar because they didn't practice. So that's why, like, I take months to get to know this person B. So by the time you get there, you're like slipping on those shoes and adjusting your crown and you're like, hello, gorgeous. Like, I've been waiting to meet you and you're comfortable. I've been seeing her for a long time.
I love that, love that, love that. I think one of the keys, just to say it again, is when you were saying all those questions, it's detail, right?
It
So it's
is.
not just saying, oh, I want to be 50 pounds lighter or whatever the number is. You really are describing the detail of what that
You are.
person B looks like. Very, very detailed vision. And I think you said it. The more you do it, the more you envision that person, journal about it, talk about it, dream about it.
Yeah.
The detail, though, then it can become more of a reality. I think that's really important. That's a great, great point, great exercise. Do you have any tips on how to get somebody going with that? Is it journaling? Is there a set of questions? Like what are your normal process for getting somebody thinking like that?
Yeah, we too like certain worksheets, which everyone hates. I hate worksheets, but I'm like, I just
Yeah.
want pen to paper. So if you don't have those, yes, journaling and just start describing like, if I wake up one day and I am my person B, describe her. So yes, pen to paper journaling is 100% important. We make vision boards. We make vision boards and dream boards. And I know they sound super cheesy and like super cliche and like everyone thinks of that movie. What was that called?
I don't know.
Oh my God. The Wish, the book. What's it called? The Wish, the Dream?
I don't know.
Oh, it was from like 15 years ago. The Gift. No. I'm like just throwing out words
Something
now.
about a vision board.
But yeah, they were like, think about it and then create it. And so it gave like vision boards and stuff like that such a weird name for a long time, but that's a great way to start training your brain
Yeah.
to see constantly
Yes.
what you're working towards, that familiarity that is like super important. But
And to narrow it down, right? So we do them,
yeah,
and I usually have a community session that we do in January it's just an open, show us your progress, bounce ideas off each other. And I think the key for a lot of people is being able to narrow it down. Like, here are kind of the areas I'm going to work on. And these are the things that are going to be most important in the forefront this year. Because it's a lot, right? We all want to do
It
a lot
is.
of things, but you can't do everything all at once.
Right.
So I think it's important to really focus on certain things and really make progress in certain areas versus everything.
Yeah.
I love that too.
And when you're talking about transforming into a whole nother human, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And shifting your identity, that's scary for a lot of people. It's a lot and it's scary. But if you do it in just bite sizes and know a detail to focus on today or tomorrow, you can practice that. So when you're doing behavior that like you don't want to do, or you're like, you can just tell yourself, this is what my person B does.
Yeah.
I'm just practicing to be my person B. I don't like this right now, but I'm doing it for her. I'm practicing because this is what she does.
I love that self-talk right there. That's a really great message and a really great way to handle that negative inner dialogue that we're so used to that draws us back,
Yeah.
right? I want to go back to something you said, the familiarity of our old habits and how the subconscious is always trying to bring us back. I know for myself and for several of the listeners, at least, this is an area that we are working on, right? That, we had some great transformational work, but it's ongoing. You have to stay in it, and it's always trying to drag you back to what you did for 30, 40, 50 years, however old you are.
It is.
Any good advice around that and around trying to keep in the present? Is it really leaning into that person B or the person you've become? Like, what do you suggest there?
Yeah, you nailed it. It is. It's leaning into her, but it's also, we have to get rid of the mindset of like, I'm going to hit this goal and then it's done.
Yeah.
Like, goals are so awesome, but they're also terrible in a way because it's like we hit it and then now what?
Yes.
And like, okay, you have to really open up yourself to, you're going to do this forever. And I know that scares a lot of people, but also at the same time, consistency can give you a lot of comfort. So knowing that this is my normal, this is my forever. Okay. And remind yourself, we're humans. We like habit.
Yeah.
We like routine. We like forever, and that's okay. But as soon as you realize like, I am making these changes, this is how I'm going to live or eat or talk to myself or journal forever. It takes away that like, well, it's just now. We're like, what do I do? It's just, no, this is who I am. So if I journal forever and this is just a daily practice, girl, you're taking that journal with you on vacation.
Forever.
Because this is what you do, you're going to bring that with you. You're not going to take a break from it. And when you do go away, like you're not going to binge drink or eat because that's not what we do. And we're doing this forever. This is who we are now.
I think that's great advice. And it also talks to what choices you make for your goals and your plan, because these crash diets, these crazy programs to lose 30 pounds in 5 weeks or whatever the numbers are,
I know.
they're not, for most, they're not going to keep you consistently going forward and create a new lifestyle,
No.
create that person B. So you have to make decisions that allow you to have the cookie, or in my case, it's always the ice cream. I always talk about the ice cream.
Yes.
But you have
Oh, girl, I'm with you.
you have to allow for that though, right? You can't say forever, for the rest of my life, I'm never having cake, I'm never having a cookie, I'm never having ice cream. Who wants to live like that? So you have to find the balance that brings you to the goals that you can live with or that you're comfortable in, but also the regime of healthy, eating and healthy exercise and all that stuff that you can live in. You have to make those choices to get to that place that works forever. That's often tricky for people as well.
It is, but it's cool to know that, like, if I'm doing this forever and I'm making good choices because this is who I am and how I eat and my person B, it leaves room, because if 80% of my diet I'm doing good, I'm eating, that leaves room for another 20%.
Yeah.
And that helps with that flexibility and stuff. Like, I do not eat perfect at all. I eat really healthy and really clean and really good, and I'm very focused. But then there's days where I'm like, let's make brownie sundaes. Like, I'm all about that.
Yeah.
And it's important for my kids to see that too.
Yes.
It's important for them to see mom have that and see that balance. But it is all about balance.
Yes. So let's go there, right? I think a lot of people, after they get past the New Year's resolutions, they get to well, I don't really have time for this. I don't really have time for me. In fact, you talked about losing yourself to becoming a mom and the kids and being the wife and being the mother and probably working too. I mean, that happens to all of us. So what do you say to people that come to you and they are struggling with the time commitment or the perceived time commitment?
Girl, the first thing I would ask, and either out loud or like in my head, I'm asking, if I don't know someone, I just hear them saying it, is, when did you start believing that you weren't worth the time? When did that start happening for you? Because when you see your worth and you know your value, you fit it in. You're like, I know we have all this going on, but I'm worth it. But that's perceived as selfish in our society, and we don't want to be selfish or like conceited. We're moms. We're good moms. We give everything to everyone all the time. And when you start shifting that inside and you know your worth and your value, you know that you deserve that time and that hour or 2 hours or whatever, just as much as the child does going to practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, you don't have time. Why do you believe that? Why do you feel that way? Why do you feel that everyone else in your work and everything deserves the time more than you? Let's start there, because that's really powerful. I talked to someone the other day and she was telling me how she couldn't afford her gym membership anymore. It was like her gym and something else. It was like a conversation I was just having with someone. And she's like, because I got these vet bills now and my dog needs a certain medication. And like, God bless the animals. I got 2 fur babies. I freaking love them. But I was like, I literally stopped her because she's my friend. I can say this. And I was like, are you telling me that you're putting the dog's health in front of yours? And she was like, no. And I'm like, you just stopped the number one thing that was helping you.
Yeah.
And she has seasonal depression and she's been dealing with a lot. And she was like, oh my God, I never thought of that. Oh my God. And we do that a lot.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to add to your point was, and this has been a lesson that's really come to the forefront for me this year in the work that I've been doing, is you have to get really aligned with your values too, because once you are really aligned with your values and your priorities, it's easier to find time because you're given that time to the right things, right? And it makes it very easy to go, does this fit in with my core values or does it not fit in with my core values?
Right.
And suddenly watching Netflix isn't that important, right? So I can get that out and there's an hour every day or whatever it is. But there's exercises like that I think we all need to do for ourselves. And that's where you find the time, when you really learn to prioritize what you value most. You can't say, I really want to be fit, but I don't have time to exercise. Because if you really, really wanted to be fit, you'd make time.
Yeah. But when people say that and they're like, I really want to be fit, but you're not making time, that's because you're still acting as your person B. Like, again, you haven't made the shifts. So we have this huge bus. I always talk about my bus analogy, and we have this huge bus, and who's in the driver's seat? Like, she's still in the driver's seat.
Yes.
No one else has been strong enough to come from a back seat to come in and take her out of it. So we're expecting different behavior from this person that hasn't grown and changed.
Yes.
And you made a really good point too, of like what we hold and what we value, what you hold sacred, and when you shift and you hold your time sacred and your health and all of that into a whole different level, it takes that scariness away. So anyone who's listening that is thinking of like really making changes this year, like truly doing it, but I'm scared. I don't know if I can do the workouts. I don't know if I have enough time. No, literally, Melissa, I literally work like 45 hours a week and I have 5 kids, and there truly is fear there and scared. Just know and trust in the process that if you do make shifts in other areas with your mind and talk and person B and vision and all the stuff, you won't be scared. It takes that fear away. And that fear of like, when will I have time? When will I fit it in? You will do it. You will do it. You will figure it out.
You just gave me the perfect segue, and you didn't know I was going to ask this. But when I was doing some research on you, I heard one of your conversations about the phrase, do it scared. And I thought, I want to bring that into the conversation because, again, another lesson that I've learned over the last couple of years with doing this podcast and a bunch of other things is sometimes you're not ready, but it's the thing that you need most. And you just have to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And doing it scared, I think probably fits into that realm of thinking. Tell me a little bit about where that came from and what you're thinking there.
Yeah, we got shirts made. My girls and I all have shirts made.
But why?
There's so many things and good tools. Like as you grow as a woman and a female and you get stronger, it's so cool to be able to watch how that changes how you're a parent and how you speak to your children. And think about how many things you were scared of doing or accomplishing as a child. And me, I didn't have anyone pushing me.
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone telling me to go for it and you can be whatever you want to be. And I did so many things afraid, but I also missed a ton because I was too scared to do it. And I know my life ended up where it was meant to be, but that phrase has helped myself on my own personal journey with health and fitness, going through a divorce, relationships, moving, starting my life all over, all of that. I didn't know how to do any of that. Girl, I didn't even know how to pay a water and electric bill on my own. And I had to just do it terrified.
Yeah.
Do it scared. And those lessons that I've learned, now I can help my kids.
Yeah.
And it's smaller things. Like my daughter was really scared to do track, but she's fit and strong and fast. And I'm like, I don't get the fear, but we're going to do it. And you're just going to do it scared.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, I can do that. I'm like, yeah, you're just going to do it. And I'm not taking away your fear. I'm not removing that from you. You can hold on to that if you feel like it's too much to be like, I'm going to do it and I'm going to own it and I love it. Yeah, right. Like how often do we feel that? You just have to tell yourself, I'm going to do this. I'm still going to be scared. I'm just going to do it scared.
Yeah. And I would couple that with just take the next best step. Because often the scariness is, I don't know the outcome because I don't know all the steps and I'm not sure how to get there. To your point about the electric bill or whatever it was, water bill. Just make a call or write that first bill out, right? Maybe write that first check out. It starts to fall into place and then you build the string of activity that then gets you to be more proficient at it. But you got to take that step. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you don't know what the next step will be. And that's okay. Just keep taking steps. If you fail, quote unquote fail, get back up and take a different step. Mm-hmm. You just have to be willing to take that next step. And doing it scared a lot of the times is what we have to do.
Yeah. And
I think that's a great lesson.
Yeah. And it's okay to not know the outcome. Like that's life.
Yes.
Like nothing is planned. And I always love to remind myself of this, my children, my listeners, my clients that, you have never failed up until this point. You're still alive.
100%.
You have survived 100% of what you've been through. Why do you think you can't survive this next step?
So I literally just did my end of year episode and I was wrapping up some of the themes, and some of these are in there.
I love it.
And that is a theme for me. Like, I've been all my life an over planner, right? I'm planning everything. I need it to be perfect. I got to think through every scenario, make sure I know every outcome so nothing pops up that I won't have thought of. And I know where that comes from. I had a lot of struggle very early on in my adult years. And so I know I'm trying to protect myself, right? But the reality is, A, you can't plan it because it never goes the way you plan. And B, I've gotten through so much crap that it's fine. Whatever it is, I know I'll figure it out. I might not know the exact answer right then, but I'll figure it out. Yeah. And I think more of us need to start really leaning into that and knowing that you'll be okay. You'll take the next step. You'll figure it out and just let the journey happen and stop wasting all that time in that circle of trying to plan and trying to think it through, because it never happens like we expect it to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's scary. It's so easy for us to say that, but I think I love that we're having this conversation right now and that more women get to hear us saying this, because it's repetitive messages like over and over and over again. They have to hear it again. Like, I can do it. I can do it scared. It's okay that I don't know the next step. It will all work out. We have to hear these messages over and over again. So that's why I'm always loving partnering up with powerhouse women and being like, let's give this message again. Let's give them another dose.
Well, and it takes time. Sometimes you're not ready for it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you only get a piece of it and then you'll hear it again in a different way or by a different voice or a different conversation, and it sticks. Yeah. I know that was what happened with me with a lot of things. And I also think it helps to feel like it's not always easy. Like, to your point about people mistaking your journey, I think it's a lot easier when people understand that we're all kind of the same. We all kind of go through the same things. The details are different, but we all have these ups and downs. And honestly, that was where my podcast was born out of, that we all have these messages because life is messy and we all go through these different messes, and we can share that information and help each other on our journeys through it, because it's hard. Let's face it. It's tough to get through it all. Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you, in this work that you've been doing now, 20 plus years, you're inspiring these moms now. That's kind of your core of what you do. What surprises you the most?
Oh man. Over the last probably good 5 years, with as many tools and technology and all the things out there to help us and stuff, I am still shocked at how many people are losing themselves and aren't living their best life ever, even though we have all these things that could support us. And it's so sad to hear these messages over and over again. It's like the same theme with women out there. And I'm just like, holy crap. I could talk to a woman in Ohio and talk to someone all the way over in Texas, and they have the same story and complaints. And I'm like, how did we get here? It's time to break out of this cycle. It's time to redefine motherhood, what it is to be a female and a woman, and take back our strength and control and know your worth and your value. Like, every day, and I know it. I know that it's out there, but every time I hear a woman talk and then another woman talk, I'm like, oh my God, is this still happening? Okay, it's still happening. We got to make changes, but I just can't believe it.
I was going to say that I've mentioned this numerous times on my podcast shows over and over. Everybody I talk to, over and over and over, I hear from women, same thing that you just said. At some point, they come to a realization that they got lost along the way. And I do think it's prevalent in moms for sure, and we can obviously understand that. But I do think it's important to recognize, and you said it, women, it's not just moms. It seems to happen to women everywhere. No matter whether you have children or not.
Yep.
Most of us, somewhere along the way, lots of different messaging from lots of different places, and we got lost. What I wish, I've said this before, and I wish I could help more people realize that earlier. And I've talked to some people, and I do think the message is getting out there, but it's not widespread enough. And for many of us, like myself, it takes some pivotal moment, something that really makes you wake up and go, wait, what did I do? How did I get here? Who am I? And then you start to do the work to unravel, to unlearn. That's my phrase of the year, to unlearn. But I too I wouldn't say I'm surprised by it. I'm disappointed by
I
it.
know.
And I wish I had a magic wand, because that's probably one of the things I would use my magic wand for.
I know.
To let people get that message earlier.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why I love working with moms, no matter if you're a breastfeeding mom and just had a baby or menopausal, like, or post-menopause. And that's why I love the group too, is because we have that big of range in there. But when you work with women, they are the ones that are in charge of the youth. And I mean, let's be real. We do everything, and we're raising them, giving the message. God bless the men, but like, let's be real. We do a lot of it. And when you help these women, whether they're a grandma now, they're still helping other generations. That's how you're going to make change. That's how we're going to make, and break the cycle of things.
Yes.
And so, yes, I love helping women and helping them find their power and stuff. But like, secretly, my evil plan is to change the generations. And what a better way to get to them, but through the moms, and you get a mom that loves herself and she's powerful and she's strong. She's got self-talk and she falls and gets back up. Like, we're not saying she's perfect. Those kids watch that. That's how you raise powerful children. That's how you get kids that are helpful and kind and loving and not bullying, and they repeat what they see. Kids are monkey see, monkey do. But if you have moms that are just beating themselves up and they're burning the candle at both ends and there's never recharge, never getting out, that's the child that sees it and is raised.
I'm glad you said generational and grandmas, because they're still impactful, because for a lot of us at my age, so I'm in my 50s and have grandchildren already, at some points in this journey, you can get very down on yourself for what you didn't know. And one of the phrases that I love the most is, you do the best you can with what you know at the time. When you know more, you do better. And you can change that, right? And so I think it's important to talk to our grandmas out there too and say, it's okay. If you missed some of that messaging to your own children, that's okay. Change it now, because 9 out of 10 of you have the ability to impact your grandchildren as well, or your grown children also.
Yeah.
So don't think you missed the boat on that. You still have the ability to shift that paradigm and influence that generation that's coming up now. Do better as you know more.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that about like older children too, because no matter how old you get, your child is still your child.
Yeah.
And your child still looks at you as mom. It doesn't matter if you're 50 something and she's 30 or 20 something. Like, it doesn't matter. They still look at you. They look up to you. They admire you. They listen to you. And if you become a different person and transform, and you're grandma now and you're old, to them or whatever.
53, yes.
Oh my God, no. Let me get your cane. That is even cooler to me in my eyes, to transform older, and your kids will watch and they'll be like, geez, my mom is making changes. I need to up my game.
Yes.
And your kids see that, and your grandkids see that, and we have, I think, just 3 women just like this past week all announced that they have grandbabies. They're going to be a grandma in their group. And they're like, oh my God. And their daughters are going into like their pregnancies, or their daughters-in-law, like different, because they've been bomb moms for so long. And they're learning like, what can I do while I'm pregnant, and working out? And I want to keep doing this, because they've watched their mom on this journey and they've transformed and they want to keep it going through a pregnancy. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool to watch.
Yeah, that's generational impact. You're breaking the cycles. Good for you.
Yep.
I love that. I love that. And also just remind people that it's okay to be honest with your kids and say, I literally have said this to my oldest daughter a few times while we were doing something with my granddaughter. I wish I knew this when you were a kid, but I didn't. And I do now. So this is probably how we should do it. And that's okay. Like, be honest, be real. Like you said, we're not perfect. Show the work and show that you can change and that they can too. That's how it happens. I love this conversation. I could talk to you for 3 hours.
I know.
But so in wrapping up, of course, we'll put all your links out there. We'll remind people to check out your podcast, Bob Mom Podcast. But I also think you have something going on that we want to share with folks in January, right?
We do. And it's free. I love
free
doing
is good.
Free stuff. Oh my God.
Wait, free and virtual?
Free and virtual. So it doesn't matter where you live, you can get involved. We're doing a free boot camp. This is my 3rd one, I think. And they have gone so well in the past. And everyone's like, when are you doing your next one? I'm like, January. We're going to do it in January. So it starts January 16th. And it's a free virtual boot camp. So I'm going to do like 5 days of free training in a free Facebook group. We'll put you in there. We have like a ton of women in there already. People are like, let me in. I don't want to miss it. And I'm going to give you a workbook and guides. We do a huge giveaway of like all my favorite products and swag and my recipe book. Like I do this big raffle at the end. But this training takes you through all of the tools that you need to transform and become bomb. And we do a training on mindset, and we do a training on nutrition, and we do a training on your vision, and a training on your exercise and like how to actually work out. I'm going to do free workouts in there. I'll be doing some ab workouts with everyone, teaching them how to use their core, some booty stuff, and it's all free. I want people to get in there, feel good, get motivated. It's called Reignite Yourself Bootcamp because I'm reigniting that fire inside.
Love
and
that.
if you miss the live training, everything's saved and recorded.
Just going to ask you that because most will say, well, I won't be able to make it, but
yeah, everything's saved
excellent.
and recorded. And we pay attention, like who commented, who went live. And then we put your name in the drawing for all the giveaways and stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a really great intro for people that are trying to get to your point, get ignited or get a little spark under themselves to get going.
Yes.
Especially, we often hear that people are struggling financially. We know it's tough out there right now. So to be able to offer a free, basically a starter kit to get them going where they could then keep going themselves, even if they don't join something else. Love that. Love that. Love that. So we'll put the link for that in the show notes so people can join up. And if for some reason they can't find that, they can always DM one of us, you or I. Our info will be there.
Oh, for sure.
And then they can get in. So that's great. And what's the date of that?
January 16th. That is our welcome call. That is our start date. Yep.
And is it every day? Or is it once a week?
Yeah. Like the 16th through the 20th or whatever. We do something every day.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a great conversation and for offering that out to our listeners. I'm hoping they all take advantage of it. It's been great having you here today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Message in the Middle with Marianne. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take a minute to share it and write a review as it helps bring new listeners to our audience. If you'd like to keep the conversation going between episodes, please join us at Facebook group Message in the Middle with Marianne.